Another quiet January coming our way. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the West Ham Network. My name's Anton. I'm bringing you today's West Ham Daily. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. Of course, if you're interested in becoming a channel member, then make sure you get cracking onto that as well. We do monthly giveaways. However, right now, if you are a subscriber, and as long as you comment on, I better fix this before Rossi B picks me up on it. If you comment on the advent calendar shows, so once a day up until Christmas Day, we're putting out an advent calendar. So we're giving you some old West Ham interviews. You have to comment on the show, and if you comment on the show, you get entered into a draw to win a prize. And we're giving away a prize every single day. We've given away 12 so far. Today's the 13th. We'll be giving another one away for the show earlier on today. So make sure you do go and check that out. But we are here to talk about West Ham news, and the West Ham news coming out of some of the sources close to the club. West Ham football, Sean Winston, who we all know is hand in hand with Mr. Sully, is put out some news today, which is some stuff we do know about. We know about the financial fair play, and we know that there are UEFA, Europa League, and European regulations that West Ham have to meet. But maybe this announcement maybe should set the tone about where maybe West Ham are going to be maybe in the January transfer window. So what was said was that West Ham will need to balance the wages and turnover ratio this January to avoid breaching the financial fair play regulations. So rules say that spending on wages, transfer fees, and agent fees must be below 80% of the club's turnover. Now, West Ham are likely to have a turnover in excess of 200 million this is season, depending on where we finish in the league and progress in the cups, including the Europa League. So that's subject to a few million here, there, and everywhere. And at 200 million, this would allow around 160 million pounds of spending, but with wages and of around 140 million pounds and agent fees of around 12 million pounds, this would limit our transfer fees to around about 8 million pounds in the winter transfer window, unless the wage bill is trimmed. How do you trim that? In reality, some players will need to leave the club. We're hearing rumours of, say, the likes of potential for Max Corney to head out the door, which would be a shame because it's not been a great opportunity and he's not really grabbed the bulls by the horns, but equally he's not been given the opportunity by David Moyes to make ends meet. But I do think there's something in him being at the club. And you could look at players like Saeed bin Rama, who's not getting a lot of game time just now. And with the links to the Saudis, that could really escalate come January. That would free up a lot of funds in wages. Plus, we could really get the going rate for a player of bin Rama's caliber. So if it was between the two of those, I could, and I would hope, in the nicest way, I would shake your hand, Ben Rama. Thank you for the fantastic memories, but go off and get your best career you possibly can and make as much money as you possibly can. That's what it's all about, really, isn't it? At the end of the day, that's what the professional footballers are in it for. Maybe I'm doing him an injustice by saying that, but he can go make a very good life for himself. Generational wealth when he goes to Saudi. You're talking about trimming some of the other players. I hear fans talking about Agerd potentially heading out the door. I don't think that will happen. You know, it probably would take a really silly amount of money for West Ham to make the move. And by word, don't take that for granted. That could happen. You could see the Saudis come in and make a move for a couple of West Ham players who were linked to heading out the door in the summer, but moves didn't transpire in the end. Agerd and Ben Rama could be subject to a lot of interest at for potentially heading out the door. You've got Max Corney. I don't think Pablo Fornals is going to leave in the winter window. Again, though, money talks, and it could be dependent on what the situation happens as well. There's loads of other factors to take into place as well. So what we've got right now is the potential match day revenue that West Ham could have. So something for the future to consider is obviously West Ham are going to apply potentially to bring in more new seats to the London Stadium, expanding the stadium by a further 5,500 seats. And what that would do to bring in more rent that would pay for West Ham's, rent they need to pay towards the LLDC as well. But that would also bring in about £9.5 million extra with the expansion to both parties split into. So you've got money potentially coming in from the club that way. And then, of course, as Russ was talking to you about the other day, with the potential American investor who's eyeing West Ham, Bobby Kotick, who's set to double his net worth within weeks. And he is taking a keen interest in looking at a Premier League club, and in particular, West Ham as well. So that could be something we could do. I know apparently it's about 10% of the Gold family shareholding in West Ham that's been officially announced that Vanessa Gold was considering putting a proportion of her shares up for sale at the end of October. And it looks like he could be one of those names. So in terms of the future of the club, in terms of our finances, I think we'll be okay. But in terms of January spending, I think we need to maybe prepare our mindsets, because it depends on what news source you believe. It depends on where the source is coming from. And sometimes it does come from the club, and sometimes they contradict each other. So really, the proof will be in the pudding. But I'm just bringing to you the information that we are told, that the whole generic world has been told. West Ham do need to tread carefully, because if we are to try and stay in Europe, of course, there's different European regulations to there is in Premier League regulations, and we'll need to trim our wage bill and trim some of our players and squad players out in order to prepare for ourselves to try and bring in new recruits come January. The question I've got to ask for you, subscribers, is as follows: who would you want to sell, or who would you want to get rid of in January? Realistic, though, as well. So put it in the comments and let me know, who are the realistic players that you can see West Ham selling, and for how much. The next question I'd ask for you is, who would you like to see West Ham sell in January? And then finally, what areas do we need to target? What areas do we need to target? There's no ifs and buts about it. We need to bring in some fresh faces. Definitely come in January, and I'd hope the club have been doing the due diligence between Tim Steidten, Mark Noble, David Moyes, Rob Newman, you name it. They're doing the due diligence in order to locate a specific player that can come in and fit in that system. Like I said, rewinding slightly onto Max Corney, I think that would be a bit harsh, because I do, and I'm confused, and I really can't understand why he's not given some game time as well, considering at the weekend against Fulham that players were ill and apparently he wasn't. So why was he not starting when another player was who did pick up an illness as well? Anyway, we have European regulations we need to fit within. We have Premier League regulations we need to fit within. So we need to be careful, tread on water, make sure we get the job done. But we do need to prepare ourselves that maybe January might not be as busy as we first hoped. If you're new around here, take it easy. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're interested in the membership. Click on join the membership options. Join me later on for the Hammers headlines. And of course, come on, you Irons.